You're good to go.
Okay. Right, hello. Following a phone call from Paul Field, who's ex-Calder Valley and is now the Heritage Project Manager on the history of amateur rugby league in Halifax. I have written a piece on how the Whitehall Warriors was founded in 2005. After a disagreement at Greetland All-Rounders, myself and Eileen left the club. I was set for retirement from the game until Eileen's son Richard suggested forming our own team. There wasn't an amateur rugby league team in our area of Halifax, in Ipperome actually. So I thought, it's not a bad idea. Richard had loads of mates in their early 20s who lived locally, some of which we had taken to play at Greetland. So he asked round and see if there was any interest. The response was positive, and with my player contacts in the game, we had a nucleus of players to form a team. I had a very good mate who had played many years at Greetland with me and was now a successful businessman, John Crossley. He agreed to be our chief sponsor and said he'd buy our first kit, amongst other things. We now needed a pitch on which to play our own matches. Ipperome and Lightcliffe High School was suggested, and after a consultation with their sports centre manager, Richard Darks, a pitch was earmarked for us. I asked Richard, who was an ex-rugby league professional, if he would consider being our coach, and he enthusiastically agreed. Someone had heard that the Whitehall pub were looking to run a football or rugby team from it, and Paul and Margaret Womersley, the landlords and landlady, were very welcome to an idea of a rugby league team, especially as Margaret's son, Chris Powell, who was an ex-Siddle player, had been training with us. So our own base was established. The team name naturally followed, and after several meetings at the pub, the Whitehall Warriors was agreed. Now we just had to get accepted into the Pennine League. First, we sent a letter to our local Halifax and District Amateur Rugby League Committee applying for our team to join. We satisfied them that we had everything in place and was introducing rugby league to a new area of Halifax. They agreed to forward our application to the Pennine League. At the Pennine League meeting, they were satisfied we met all their criteria and said we would be placed in Division 6. I explained that we weren't a team of novices, so they asked which division I thought we should be in. I suggested Division 5 would be a fair beginning, so it was agreed. Now the real hard work began. Eileen took on the roles of secretary and treasurer. Myself and Pete York were chief fundraisers. Paul and Margaret provided players with Whitehall Warriors polo shirts and even got a draft name beer named after the team. Richard Darks took training twice a week in preparation for the forthcoming season. Everybody did it voluntary, as it was just as well, and we still had to pay for players' insurance, ground hire, paying referees and first aid kit. Local referee Paul Nuttall did our friendlies for free, enthusiastically supporting his local team. Another role that needed filling was a first aider or a physio. We were fortunate that Elizabeth Johnson and Lee Walmsley were just starting out as trainee physiotherapists and jumped at the chance to get some real life experience. Once we had established our place capabilities, me and Richard Darks soon agreed our captain, Craig Smiley Riley. He had an air of authority about him and looked as hard as nails. Whether he was or not, I've never found out, as nobody ever dare challenge him. With Darks' expert pre-season training complete, the 2005 season was soon to begin. We arranged a home friendly with Oiland Vikings from Division 3, a real stiff challenge to see if our team had gelled. Over 100 spectators turned up to watch, and they weren't disappointed. The Warriors, scheduled to in Division 5, held their own against a strong Oiland Vikings side. Led by experienced skipper Craig Riley, the new team formed surprisingly quickly and matched Oiland in every department. Andy Green, nicknamed the Tri-Machine, was the star man, closely followed by Andy Sadler. Big games from Andrew Johnson, Mark Vento, Adam Crawshaw, Pete Williams and Ollie Dugdale showed the strength in depth that this team had. Paul and Basted showed the real potential of this team's halfbacks. A very creditable 2020 final result pleased everyone, building more enthusiasm for the forthcoming season. Ypres was buzzing with excitement for this new team, and newspaper coverage was a factor, as Dave Nosy Parker, the sports columnist for the Big House Echo, hyped up the Warriors with lots of publicity. We were on a roll. The village had really come alive, and the Whitehall pub was the hub of all this excitement. Our first ever league match was at home to York Grove. We got off to a very slow start, going down to 2 early York tries. Captain Craig Riley rallied his team and combined with feisty halfback Paul Kemp, who sent Andy Sadler racing in for Whitehall's first ever league try. With this giving inspiration, Richard Sadler linked with David Spivey, who sent Paul Kemp diving in the corner. Elusive standoff, Richard Sadler found space to leave the York team grasping for thin air as he danced through unopposed. His goal gave the Warriors the lead for the first time at 14-12. York fought back and regained the lead before half-time. A try, a penalty and a drop goal, making a deficit of 21-14. Darks' positive half-time team talk and a few tactical changes, it resulted in yours truly crashing in under the sticks. Richard Sadler goal to leave the Warriors within 1 point of victories. No way were Whitehall going to let this slip away now. David Spivey was the hero, powering his way over for the decisive try. Richard Sadler's goal made the final score 26-21 to the Warriors. What better way to bring rugby league to Ypres? The players I met along the way are too numerous to mention, but still playing at 50, I now gave other old boys the inspiration to dig out their boots. Notable old boys at the Whitehall who I enjoyed playing alongside were Paul Johnson, Richard Spivey, Mick Williams, Tony Firth, Paul Yozza Hughes, Stuart Syme, and Todmord's Billy Collier. I must mention the editor of this article, who is called Paul Field, and he is still playing Masters after dedicating years at Calder Valley. I could go on and on with match reports, as it was such an exciting season, but we ended up finishing second to Wetherby Bulldogs, which was quite an achievement, and gaining promotion to Division 4. To celebrate, we arranged the end-of-season presentation dinner, which we held at the Big House Sports Club. A great turnout of players, sponsors and supporters. Chief guest who awarded the prizes was ex-Barla chairman Maurice Holroyd. Andrew Sadler won the John Crossley Memorial Trophy for the most improved player. Craig Riley won the Paul and Margaret Womersley Man of Steel. David Spivey won the David and Arlene Beaumont Players Player Cup, and Andy Green won the John Crossley Player of the Year Award. Gaining promotion to Division 4 was going to be a lot stiffer challenge, but word had gone round about the new team in Ipperome, and we got a good influx of new players. With Darksy at the helm, the future was looking rosy for the Whitehall Warriors. I've written many match reports over our 8-year history, but I've stuck to our first season formation year. I'm sorry I've not been able to mention everybody in this condensed summary, so if I missed you out, I hope you will understand. These players had very supportive wives and family who came along to every match and helped in any way they could. The team also gave chances to new and up-and-coming youngsters such as Kieran Knowlton, Dave Skinner, Alan Francis, Danny Goldinsmith, Josh Hopkinson, Lee Squires, and David Spivey's younger brother James and his friend Mike Hogg. Margaret had a stein glass behind the bar which held about 2 pints, so we introduced a challenge after every game that whoever was picked as man of the match had to down it in one. Lots had tried and failed. Then Lee Squires got the man of the match and was determined to be the first to beat the challenge. Sure enough, this crazy young buck succeeded in downing the beer, but immediately threw it back up all over Margaret's floor. He then acquired the nickname Sick Boy. We often challenged visiting teams to a drinking boat race of about 8 to 10 players standing in a line. Each player necked his beer in turn, putting the empty glass on his head, and the winners being the ones to empty their glasses first. I remember one occasion we were trailing, and so much was the desire to win that Sick Boy tipped a full pint over his head. It wasn't often we lost drinking contests, as being a pub team, you've guessed it, everyone spent a lot of time in the Whitehall, and a lot of our young team members were blooded in the Whitehall, enjoyed the camaraderie that comes along with the sport. The players supported every event going, and one in particular was a cancer research fundraiser where Margaret had her head shaved. I'll have to take my hat off to Andy Thornton of Queensbury, who's passed my record for the most continuous years played in full contact rugby league. I held it at 40 years, but I'm pretty sure Andy has now passed me, but it couldn't have gone to a nicer guy and a true legend of the game. And lastly, I must mention my wife Eileen. None of this would have been possible without her contribution. And you know what they say, behind every successful man is an equally successful woman. She has always been happy to be behind the scenes, and beside the role of secretary and treasurer, she also washed the kit, was a team photographer, typed up and sent in match reports and photos to the Brighouse Echo and the Halifax Courier, organised presentation nights, and even arranged my surprise 50th birthday at the Whitehall. Even got me a stripper. With our combined efforts, the Whitehall got off to a fantastic beginning and were well and truly put on the map. Really, that concludes the formation year for the Whitehall Warriors. The following 7 seasons were a continuation of the setup we had started. Players came and went. The fortunes of the team, now we had got promoted, were up and down. The running-offs continued as before, except for a change in management. Paul Johnson and Stuart Syme took the reins after Richard Dark stood down. A large input of players followed when Alex Scargill joined the club. He lived at Shelf and wanted to play for a team nearer to home, so he left Undercliff and joined the Warriors. A lot of his mates followed him, and this group of players were the basis of a very successful team of players who played together for many seasons, unfortunately, till my stroke ended it all. 11 years later, the final team we had all seemed to have kept in contact with each other, and it was lovely to see them all at one wedding or another, like Ash Kane's and Richard Ingham's. I have a lot of happy memories.